I need to get this off my chest because for 7 years, I've been waiting for this moment, and now that it's here, my mind's spinning, but I'm not backing off. Let's start at the beginning with my graduation, where this whole thing kicked off. It was spring 2018, and I was 24, finally earning my associate's degree from a community college. It took me 6 years because I was juggling a full-time warehouse job and night classes, barely getting any sleep. My parents, Richard and Alina, sat in the back during the ceremony, arms folded, faces grim. While other families clapped, snapped photos, and shed joyful tears, my parents looked like they were at a funeral for someone they despised. After the ceremony, families gathered outside for pictures. My Aunt Clara tried to rally everyone for a group shot. That's when my mother decided to make a scene. She announced, loud enough for at least a dozen people to turn and stare, that a community college degree was hardly worth celebrating. She said even the neighbor's kid, who never finished high school, got into a state university. My father chimed in, calling my degree pointless and saying my brother, Ethan, was already a surgeon at 26. I was standing right there. They didn't even look at me while they tore me down, just talked about me like I was a failure they had to justify to the relatives. They left before I even crossed the stage to collect my diploma. No photos, no dinner, nothing. I watched them drive away while other families hugged and celebrated. In my cheap graduation gown, I stood there thinking about the 6 years I'd spent working 50-hour weeks and studying at night. And this was my reward. That night, I overheard them on their porch when I got back to their house. I was still living there because warehouse pay didn't cover rent in our area. My father told my mother I'd be stuck stocking shelves for life. He said he should have thrown me out at 18 like he wanted. My mother agreed, calling me a drain on their legacy. Not their time or money, their legacy, like I was a genetic mistake. 3 weeks later, I moved out. I didn't tell them where I was going. I packed my stuff while they were at work and left. I kept my warehouse job and started an IT certification program. Over the next 2 years, I earned every credential I could afford. By 2020, I landed a solid job in network administration. By 2022, I was running a department. By 2024, I bought a house in a neighborhood my father's accounting salary couldn't touch. And yes, I was furious the whole time. Every promotion, every raise, every win, I thought about that graduation day. I thought about how they left before I got my diploma, how they called me useless, how Ethan stood there silent while they humiliated me in front of everyone. I didn't let it go. I didn't recover. I fueled myself with it. Every morning, I woke up imagining the day they'd need something from me, and I'd get to decide if they deserved it. 3 weeks ago, my Aunt Clara texted me about a certified letter that arrived at my parents' house. She said they were panicking, calling the number on the letterhead, but no one would give them answers. I didn't reply to her text. Last Saturday at 4 a.m., I woke up to banging on my windows, frantic, like someone was breaking in. I checked my exterior cameras, installed last year, and saw my parents on my lawn. My mother was yelling. My father was on his knees on my porch. I went outside because neighbors' lights were flicking on and I didn't want cops involved. My mother started screaming the moment she saw me, saying they didn't mean any of it, begging me to stop this. My father said their house was gone, their accounts frozen. He kept calling me son like it meant something between us. I asked what they wanted. My mother said I had to fix it, that I was the only one who could. My father said 3 lawyers refused their case and the letter came from my attorney. They wanted me to call it off. Here's what they didn't know. 7 years ago, when I was 24, still in their house, sleeping in my old bedroom, my grandmother passed away. She left me $30,000, not Ethan me. My parents told me to put it toward their mortgage to help the family. They said once the house was paid off, I'd have a place to stay as long as I needed. They had me sign papers. I was 24, exhausted, depressed, and I trusted them because they were my parents. Turns out those papers made me a legal co-owner of their house. My $30,000 became equity. They never told me. They kept paying the mortgage, and my name was on all the documents. I found out 2 years later when I applied for my own mortgage, and the lender flagged the property record. I hired a lawyer, spent $8,000 to understand my rights, and for 5 years I waited. I let them live there, make their payments, and said nothing, but I kept every record, every receipt, every document. I calculated how my $30,000 grew into equity, tracking every detail. 6 months ago, my mother called me for the first time in years, asking if I'd attend Ethan's wedding. I said no. She called me immature for holding on to something from years ago, saying families forgive. I asked if she remembered calling me a defect in their genetics. She hung up. That's when I filed the partition action to force the house sale. As a co-owner, I had that right. The certified letter was the notice that the house would be sold, with proceeds split based on ownership. My initial investment, equity growth, and legal factors meant I was entitled to about 40% of the sale value. The house is worth around $580,000 now. Do the math. But here's the catch with partition actions. The court freezes accounts tied to the property. My parents couldn't tap their home equity line, refinance, or sell it themselves for full profit. The court handles the sale, and it's slow. My father said they'd been living on credit cards for 3 months, racking up $40,000 in debt. My mother's car was repossessed. They were losing everything because of me. I told him they lost me when they called me a genetic failure at my graduation. Ethan showed up on Tuesday, unannounced, pulling into my driveway in his fancy car like we were close. He said our parents were a wreck, that they didn't mean it, that what I was doing was heartless. I asked if he remembered standing there while they trashed me at my graduation. He said it was years ago and I needed to move forward. I asked if he ever told them they were wrong. He said that wasn't the point. I told him to leave. Now my parents are back, parked outside my house every morning this week, leaving notes on my car. My mother sends me messages on social media saying I'm tearing the family apart. My father called my workplace, trying to speak to my boss, claiming I was in a family dispute that was clouding my judgment. My boss called me in, and I had to explain that my estranged parents were harassing me. My Aunt Clara called yesterday, crying, saying my mother was unraveling. She begged me to drop the legal action and resolve this like family. I told her I tried being family for 24 years, and it got me called worthless. She said I wasn't the person she thought I was, that I was being spiteful. People at work are noticing. My parents sometimes wait in the parking lot. A coworker saw my mother yelling at me through my car window and asked if she should call security. This is my life now because I'm claiming what's legally mine. The court date for the sale is in 6 weeks. My attorney says my parents can't afford a lawyer good enough to fight a partition action when I'm a legal co-owner. They keep saying I'm taking their home, but it's my home too. My money bought part of it. They never thought I'd figure it out or have the guts to act. I'm not backing down. I've waited 7 years for them to face one consequence for how they treated me. Just one. Maybe I'm being cruel. Maybe I should rise above it, but I was the bigger person for 24 years, and it got me nothing. Update 1: the response to my last post blew me away. Thanks to everyone who said I'm in the right. Some of you called me vengeful, and yeah, I am. I've been vengeful for 7 years, and I'm not stopping. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and things have gotten worse. Not for me, but for them, which is exactly what I wanted. Last Thursday, Ethan showed up again, this time with his wife, Sophia. I almost didn't open the door, but I was curious about their new tactic. Ethan started with the same line about me destroying the family, saying this isn't who I am. Sophia jumped in, saying they've been sending my parents money, not just a little, but covering their mortgage since August. That's $2,400 a month, nearly $10,000 total. She said they've been keeping my parents afloat because medical bills are piling up, and my father's accounting firm cut his hours. I asked about the medical bills. Ethan said my mother's been having heart problems since summer, with over $15,000 in out-of-pocket costs. Nobody told me this, but why would they? We haven't spoken in years except for that wedding call, and honestly, I don't care. My mother didn't care about my health when I was working 50-hour weeks, studying at night and sleeping 4 hours. She cared about comparing me to the neighbor's kid. Sophia said I need to drop the partition action because my parents can't afford to lose the house. Ethan said they'll be homeless. I asked where they planned for me to live when they said they should have kicked me out at 18. Ethan called me ridiculous, saying that was years ago, that people say things they don't mean when they're upset. I said they weren't upset at my graduation. They were ashamed of me. There's a difference. Ethan said I'm painting myself as the victim, that our parents were disappointed because they knew I could do better. I asked if that's why they left before I got my diploma or called me a genetic failure. Sophia touched my arm, saying parents sometimes say hurtful things, but I'm an adult and need to move on. I pulled away and told them to leave. Ethan said they wouldn't until we resolved this. With the court date 4 weeks away, he wanted a solution. I said the solution is the house gets sold and I get my share. He called it revenge, not a solution. I said he's right, it's revenge and I've been planning it for years. Sophia looked stunned, asking if I'd really been plotting this. I said yes, since I learned I was a co-owner. Ethan called that twisted, saying I'm messed up for scheming against our parents. I told him to ask Sophia how much money she's actually sent them, because I bet it's more than $10,000. Ethan asked her directly. She admitted it was around $25,000 over the past year. Ethan's face went blank. He asked why she hid the full amount. She said he'd have stopped her and his parents needed help. He asked if she took it from their house fund. They'd been saving for a bigger place since their wedding. She said yes, it was an emergency. They started arguing in my living room. Ethan said they were supposed to buy a house this spring, now impossible because of her. Sophia said his parents matter more than a bigger house. Ethan said their future matters too. I watched them bicker and it was satisfying. Ethan turned to me, blaming me for creating this mess. I asked who was suffering when my mother called me lazy at my graduation. He told me to stop bringing it up. I said I'll bring it up every time someone tells me to let it go. They left, arguing in my driveway for 10 minutes before driving off separately. 2 days later, my father showed up at my workplace, walking into the building and asking for me at reception. A coworker, Lisa, said an upset older man was looking for me. I went to the lobby and there he was, looking worn out. He wanted to talk privately. I said we'd talk right there. He said he never meant to hurt me, that he and my mother were trying to push me to succeed because they came from nothing and didn't want me to struggle. I asked how calling me useless was supposed to help. He said it was about appearances. My aunt's kids had university degrees, Ethan was a surgeon, and my 6-year community college stint made them look bad in front of family. There it was, the truth. It was never about me. It was about their image. I asked if he realized how twisted that was. He said I don't get what it's like to be judged by family. I said I spent 24 years being judged by them, so I understand perfectly. He said it's different. His parents looked down on him for not being successful enough, and he didn't want that for his kids. So he passed that judgment on to me. I told him it changes nothing. He said they hired a lawyer, paid for by Ethan, who thinks they can reduce my 40% share. I laughed, saying Ethan's spending his house fund to fight me. My father said it's not about money, it's about principle. I said it's only about money, always has been. They wanted my $30,000 without giving me real ownership. He claimed it was for tax reasons. I said those tax reasons worked out great for me. Security stepped in because we got loud and he left. My boss called me in again, warning that this could be a workplace issue. I showed him camera footage of my parents at my house at 4 a.m., plus my mother's messages. He noted I'm being harassed, but said I need to handle it before it impacts my team. I called my attorney, told her everything. She said their lawyer, Michael Lee, is sharp and will argue my $30,000 doesn't justify 40% equity since my parents paid the mortgage and maintained the house. She has proof otherwise, but said it'll extend the case by 2 months. 2 months of harassment, family drama, and waiting. I asked about speeding it up. She said only if my parents settle, likely by refinancing to buy me out. I laughed, they can't afford that without Ethan's money. My Aunt Clara called Friday, saying the family's divided, and my cousin Diego's skipping Christmas to avoid the drama. I said Diego didn't mind the drama when my mother humiliated me at graduation. Clara told me to let it go. I'm so sick of hearing that. She said my parents struggled financially my whole childhood, filing bankruptcy when I was 6. Their parents bailaid them out, but it was humiliating. Ethan's success as a surgeon validated them. My community college path brought back their shame. I told her that doesn't justify calling me a genetic failure. She said my mother was on new anxiety meds during my graduation, which made her lash out. I asked if my father was medicated too. She called me stubborn. I said I'm choosing to be stubborn forever when it comes to them. She hung up. Now half the family's cut me off. My uncle's posting vague social media rants about ungrateful kids. Ethan's sharing old family photos, captioning them about family loyalty. My mother's telling everyone I'm making them homeless out of spite. But this isn't spite, it's fairness. 7 years ago, they made me feel worthless. Now I'm making them feel the same, powerless, humiliated, like their future hinges on someone who doesn't care about them. The court date's set for late January. My attorney says Michael Lee's good but not unstoppable. We'll win. It'll just take longer and cost more. I've got $40,000 saved for legal fees. They've got Ethan's money and whatever Sophia's secretly sent. I'm not backing down. Update 2, this is spiraling, and I'm loving it. Thanks to everyone saying I'm doing the right thing, especially the person who said my parents are getting what they deserve. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and the court date's January 28th, 5 weeks out. 5 weeks of watching my parents scramble, and it's better than I ever dreamed. Last Monday, my mother showed up with a small rented moving truck. Knocking at 9 a.m., she said she needed to drop off my grandmother's belongings from their garage. Stuff left to me 7 years ago that I didn't know about. She said it was stored there since I lived with them at the time. Now, with the house sale looming, she wanted to deliver it. I told her to bring it over but said I wouldn't help load it. She started crying on my porch, saying I've become someone she doesn't know, that the son she raised wouldn't do this. I said the son she raised was called a genetic failure at his graduation, so maybe I'm not that person anymore. She claimed she's apologized. I said she hasn't, not once. She said she's tried to explain. I told her explaining isn't apologizing. We argued for 20 minutes. She said she'd get Ethan to help. I said fine. She returned 2 hours later with Ethan, who looked drained. They unloaded 12 boxes and I watched from my window. When they finished, Ethan asked to talk. I said no, but he insisted it was important, so I let him in. Ethan said Sophia moved out to her sister's place. They've been fighting since she admitted sending our parents $25,000. He feels betrayed. She gave away their future without fully discussing it. He said every time he brings it up, she says his parents matter more than a house. He asked if I was happy now. I said I'm not happy about his marriage, but not responsible either. He said I am. I'm forcing the sale, making our parents desperate. If I dropped this, Sophia would stop sending money and they'd recover. I reminded him Sophia sent $25,000 before I filed anything. He said that was just bill help. I said it's the same thing. His wife prioritizes our parents over their marriage, not my fault. Ethan said he's not leaving until we resolve this. I said the house gets sold, I get my share, end of story. He said Michael Lee thinks they can cut my share to 25%. I asked how much he's paying Michael. He said $15,000 retainer plus $350 an hour. Likely $35,000 total by the end. I laughed, saying he's spending $35,000 to maybe save $90,000, since 25% is still over $140,000. The math doesn't add up. He said it's about principle, not math. I said the principle is I'm legally owed my share and he's wasting money fighting it. He left, leaving the 12 boxes in my living room. That night I opened them. Photo albums, jewelry, clothes, kitchen items, books, and a letter from my grandmother, written 2 weeks before her 2018 death. She said she left me the $30,000 because I visited her every Sunday despite my grueling schedule, unlike Ethan or my cousins. She knew my parents were tough on me and wanted me to have something for myself to build a proud life. I realized she saw how they treated me and tried to give me a way out, but they twisted her gift into their leverage, making me a co-owner without explaining it, thinking they'd get my money without real ownership. Their attorney's advice backfired, making me a legal co-owner. I called my attorney, told her about the letter, and asked if it helps our case. She said it might, proving my parents misused a gift meant for my future. She made copies. She said Michael Lee will hate it. 2 days later, my father called, saying they found out about the letter. Ethan told them about the boxes, and they read my grandmother's private letter before giving it to me. He said it changes nothing. The house is theirs, and I'm stealing it. I said I'm taking what's legally mine. He said they'll live with Ethan if they lose the house, which will ruin his marriage. I said that's their problem and Ethan's. He said I'm destroying the family over a years-old grudge. I told him if one more person says it's years ago, I'll explode. I think about their words every day, every promotion, every purchase, every compliment. They said I'd be nothing forever. He said they know they were wrong. I asked when they realized that, when I got my job, my house, or when I filed the action. He said they've always known. I said they had 7 years to apologize and didn't until they needed me. He blamed pride. I said pride can keep them warm in Ethan's spare room. Clara called Saturday about a family intervention planned for Sunday. I said I'm not going. She said I have to. I said I don't owe anyone a lecture from people who watched my parents humiliate me and stayed silent. She called me unfair. I said it's fair. Where was their intervention 7 years ago? She called me selfish, prioritizing money over family. I said money is our family's core value, always has been. That's why they were ashamed of my community college, why Ethan's success mattered. I'm just finally winning at their game. She hung up. The intervention's in 3 days. My mother's texting nonstop, saying if I loved them, I'd come, that we can fix this as a family. I haven't replied. Ethan caught me in my work parking lot Wednesday, saying Sophia's talking to a divorce lawyer to explore options, furious he won't take a loan to buy out my share. I told him everyone's destroying everything for image and money. He said if I go through with this, we're done. No more brother, no more family. I said we haven't been family since he stood silent at my graduation. He said I'll regret it. I said I've lived with regret for 7 years. Now I'm living with satisfaction. Michael Lee filed to delay the court date, claiming they need more financial records to prove their contributions outweigh mine. My attorney says it's a stall, but it might push things back a few weeks. I'm fine with it. Every day this drags on is another day they face their actions, beg, and explain why their son is taking their house. And every time they admit they made me a co-owner, took my money, and called me worthless. Final update, it's over. The house sold 3 days ago, and I got my check yesterday, $227,400, my 40% minus court and attorney fees. My parents got about $190,000 after their mortgage and Michael Lee's $47,000 bill. Not enough for a new house in our area, barely enough for a down payment. Let me catch you up because a lot went down and you deserve the whole story. The family intervention happened without me. Clara texted me a long message afterward, saying everyone gathered in my parents' living room, talking about how I've changed, how money's corrupted me, how my grandmother would be ashamed. My mother cried the whole time. My father said I'm unrecognizable. Ethan said I'm intentionally destroying the family. My cousin Diego, who showed up, said the situation made him uneasy and he didn't want to pick sides. Clara said they agreed I'm wrong but can't force me to do right. My mother asked for prayers for me. I didn't respond. The court date was delayed twice by Michael Lee's motions, first for more discovery time, then arguing my grandmother's letter didn't prove the money was solely for me. My attorney countered fast, and the judge, annoyed, set a final date for February 12th, no more delays. 3 weeks before, my parents came to my house on a Wednesday night. They asked to come in or sit on the porch. I said no to both. We stood in the doorway and they made their last plea. My father said their finances, reviewed with Michael Lee, show they can't afford the house even if they reduce my share. Legal fees, $32,000 so far, have crushed them. Their $50,000 in credit card debt from living costs and my mother's medical bills. Ethan can't help because Sophia stopped him. They offered to sign over the entire house if I dropped the action. I'd sell it and keep all proceeds. They'd move out. They wanted to avoid a court sales humiliation to say they gifted me the house to save face. I asked what they'd get. My father said dignity, to tell people it was always meant to be mine. I asked if they thought anyone would buy that. My mother said it's about the story told, not belief. Again, it's about image. I said no. My father asked why. I said I want a court ruling proving I'm owed my share, a public record of their failure to stop me. He called me spiteful. I said yes, we've covered that. My mother apologized repeatedly for graduation, for not supporting me, for making me feel worthless. She said she'd change it if she could, that she's been sorry for years but was too ashamed to reach out. I said that's not an apology, it's an excuse. Apologies mean saying the words when it matters, not when you're desperate. She said she means it now. I said now's too late, now's when they're losing their house. Where was this when I was killing myself at the warehouse, getting my first job, buying my house? My father called it one bad day. I said it was 24 years of being less than Ethan, of being a disappointment. He said they pushed me because they believed in me. I said that's what bad parents say to excuse cruelty. They left my mother crying, my father looking broken. I felt justified, not guilty. 2 weeks before court, Ethan called, saying Sophia filed for divorce, upset he won't help our parents more. He blamed me. I said his marriage was crumbling before my action. Sophia sent $25,000 last year. He said I'm wrong. I said we haven't been family since he stayed silent at my graduation. He said he was 28 and didn't know what to say. I said he could have said anything. He hung up. At court, it was us, Michael Lee, and a few others. Clara sat behind my parents, I sat alone. Michael argued my $30,000 didn't justify 40%, since my parents paid the mortgage and upkeep. My attorney showed my $30,000 covered the down payment and first-year mortgage, proved my co-ownership, and used my grandmother's letter to show the money was for me alone. The judge asked why they made me a co-owner if I wasn't meant to be one. My father said it was for tax purposes, assuming I understood. The judge noted I wasn't at the transaction. He ruled in my favor, 40% equity, house to be sold at auction. Michael's appeal request was denied as frivolous. The house sold for $568,000. After fees, I got $227,400. My parents got $190,000 after Michael's $47,000 bill. They moved in with Ethan, whose marriage is collapsing. Clara posted online about a family ruined by money. Diego commented that some value being right over kindness. I didn't reply. My parents called twice, asking for help finding an apartment since Ethan's house isn't working. My father asked for a loan from my share. I deleted their voicemails. Yesterday, my mother messaged me, admitting their graduation words were unforgivable, driven by their insecurities. She said they're proud of me, though they had no part in my success, and hopes I'll talk someday. I read it 3 times, then blocked her, my father, Ethan, Clara, everyone. I'm done with their excuses, pleas, and demands to forgive. I have $227,400, a house I earned, a career I built, a life they said I'd never have. They have $190,000 each other and a broken family. 7 years ago, they left my graduation, called me a failure. Now they've lost everything, and I've gained exactly what I'm worth. I'm not sorry, not conflicted, not second-guessing. 7 years of waiting, and every day was worth it.